And as Chris would say, we are live. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and pumpkin warriors to that 6+++ show. This is the Halloween edition. It is a spookiness tier list tonight. We don't fully know what that is yet, but we're gonna make it for you. And it's Halloween, so if you're not out doing the duties of trick or treating, then tune in, and we will take you through which of the 40k armies out there are truly the most spookiest. But we also have a lovely guest tonight. I'm very excited to say that we have Tomek from Contact Lost here. Tomek, how are you doing?
Hi everyone. Great. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
It's a
really
real
exciting.
pleasure. To people who might be listening to this on Spotify, Tom is instead of a parrot, he has a huge pumpkin on his shoulder. I have two pumpkins sticking out of my head right now. So yeah, it's great. Looking forward to this one and where it takes us.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we've been chatting about trying to get one of you guys on for a little while. Obviously, we're big fans of Contact Lost here, and we'll talk about a bit more about those guys in a moment. But it's absolutely awesome that you've come on for what is going to be one of our more silly episodes. Really, really excited for it. I'm also joined here tonight by the one and only Scrivo. Scrivo, how are you doing?
I am very good. I am in fact so good that I'm going to catch all of the good jokes that you're going to make before you actually say them tonight, because I'm obviously a Pokemon master.
Very
I
nice.
want that hat.
Yeah, it's an extremely cool hat. The very best.
Like no one ever has.
Yeah, exactly that. I assume because I saw you at the weekend that you haven't done any hobby, Scribbo, but just in case you have, anything new in your hobby line?
I've taken a box of Exalted 8-bound and a Dimus Pattern Rhino to work for the last 2 days, with the goal of building them. They are still sat in the bag next to me, but tomorrow is a different day, so I might build them tomorrow.
Nice. I've been too
I
tired.
won't.
This was the first evening where I was like, nope, not touching anything. I've done enough building and painting lately. I'm also joined by the one, the only, Davey. Davey, how are you doing?
Oh, hello. It's lovely to be back. It's been a month or so. It's been a
It's
hot
been a
month.
little while. Has anything happened in your life, Davey, that might have kept you busy in the interim?
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. So a baby is one of those things. So that's been fun. He's 2 months old next week, so that's exciting times. But yeah,
Wow.
really, really good. Hasn't stopped me hobbying though. I've hobbied
No,
the shit.
I was going to say, and you've been gaming. I saw you on Friday for some games, and the baby was in tow in a papoose.
Yes. I did some experimenting.
In a poo-poo
I put
sauce.
the baby in a sling and then
Yes,
tried
he
to
did.
play 40k with the baby in the sling.
He
Day
did.
one worked very well. Day two was a disaster.
Yeah.
Which ended in super screams from a Tesco disabled toilet as I cleaned
Oh.
poo off of literally everything.
Been there, seen
And
that.
that was just John. Oh dear.
I just don't know when to control myself anymore.
Yeah, I mean, so there's not too much of a Plus roundup for you guys for this week, so I'm just going to rattle through it very quickly, and then we can get into
I
the
mean,
show.
I would also drop in that I just decide I'm going to win RTTs and then win them.
Oh yeah.
There's that.
Sorry, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell people about the
I
role?
don't like to talk about it, but I thought I'd bring it up.
Davy's on 2 back-to-back RTT wins with the Vanguard Tyranids.
Yes,
we're all very chuffed about it.
No, I was over the moon. There's still lots of work to do. I've got 2 GTs coming up at the end of November, so I'm more keen to see how those pan out.
Oh, definitely. And we're going to chat about your list and about what you've been up to with Vanguard, aren't we, soon? I think that's in the pipeline.
I think once I've got it, some of the streaks ironed out. The game I had against Chris, I got absolutely pummeled. Fair enough, it was
that's Eldar, though, isn't it? That's Eldar. That's okay.
But I think there's a path to victory in that game. But
for sure.
Absolutely. So yeah, I just need to work out those kinks and then get in. There's been some really good Tyranny content out there on the internet. Maelstrom Games have done a really interesting couple of videos on a simulation swarm, which isn't one of the ones that everyone's talking about at the moment. So it's quite fun to hear about and see how that guy's getting on. I think he might have went 5-0 with it or something like that.
Yeah.
So I play to him.
Yeah, very nice. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Coming up in the pipeline, I know that Jack is recording Matchup Plus Plus. The next episode of that is coming out. Rocket Stone, it was a bit of a tier list week because Rock and Stone are doing a Votan units tier list later this week, so that's going to be fun. Should be a little bit easier to quantify, perhaps, than whatever we're going to do with Spookiness tonight. And we also had a bat rep go out yesterday, which was Drukhari versus Votan. This was filmed at LGT with Paulie from Real Space Raiders, his beautiful Drukhari army. And it's a very, very good game. Watching it back, I hadn't really appreciated how tough and sort of interesting this one was. And it goes right down to the final sort of swings of the last couple of turns. So do give that a listen or a watch, rather. Might be more useful for you. If you I don't know how useful a listen's going to be. You probably want to watch that one, but it's a good game, and it was still new into the new meta, and we were both still really learning what Votan and Drukhari were looking like at that moment in time. So it's a really interesting game. Welcome to everyone into the chat. Welcome Nurgle Matthew. Welcome Hick Dead. Lovely to see you, Sean Kate. Well, as always, thank you very much for joining us. So in a second, we're going to start attempting to construct a spookiness tier list. But before we do, I want Tomek to share the story of Contact Lost a little bit, as much as anything for my own curiosity, because I'm really interested in it. This is a podcast that came into my attention, particularly during the WTC this year, and it's one that I now listen to fairly religiously. But I want to get the history, I want to get the backstory. So Tomek, tell us all about it.
Thank you for the spotlight. And for the kind words. So this is what we do is basically a podcast that we created with Mihao, also known as Joker. I don't know, 3 years ago, but it went on for a year. We invited people from abroad, like from Australia and so on. But then, I guess, as it happens with multiple initiatives, sort of burnout kicked in.
Oh yeah.
And we stopped recording for you. I mean, I passed it on to Joker to continue what we started, but somehow he didn't want to do it. So we had a break for a year, and then I came back, and then we started doing it properly. So the idea was to bring spotlight to Polish scene and Polish players because Poland is known to have strong scene, strong players, and the WTC winning team. However, you do hear about Poland winning, but you don't really hear about Polish players. I mean, nowadays you do, but 3 years ago, 2 years ago, hardly anyone knew who Pumba is or Duda and so on and so on. So we started inviting people over. We started presenting them to the world. Sort of the motto was to prove to the world that there is a scene outside of America. And I guess we were quite successful at that.
100%.
Especially with like again bringing Typhus to the spotlight. So like the guy who now does Enter the Matrix for StatCheck, and talks about teams and building teams and doing matrices and so on. So if anyone is interested in teams content, probably Typhus is a person that knows the most because he played on the Polish national team. He coached the Polish national team this year when they won. We invited Pumba, and sort of his fame also exploded, and then he was on the national team this year, and also, we know how that went. So Polish scene is not big, but it's like every event is a Shark Tank of an event. And we just felt it was worth talking about it. And then it's sort of like one thing led to another. We got invited to the LGT last year. Then we, based on that, let's call it a success. I guess Zach was happy with us, so he passed on the word to Neil from the WTC. And Neil invited us. Then we got invited to the LGT again this year. And who knows what's next? Like, we just want to do good content. We actually started doing those series on Facebook, like themed days. We have Myson, who is also part of Team Ignite.
Yes,
and
GSC player, right, Myson?
Exactly. I mean, So I think he came to prominence playing AdMech when AdMech was really strong. He won a couple of, like, let's call them GT equivalents in Poland. And then he moved on to GSC. So he played that, I think last year, at the WTC and this year as well.
Hmm.
And so he's part of the team as well. And we also have Vitalis, who is on the more artistic side. So this is kicking off because we got sponsored by the Army Painter.
Mhm.
So the Army Painter is helping us with some like paints and so on, and Vitalis is taking that, and he's going to do live shows painting something and then post things on Instagram and so on. So it's slowly developing. We're not like going out of our way to do anything special. I want to release it, like the episodes and so on, at our own pace. I don't
Yeah.
want to rush anything.
Mhm.
I was afraid that this might happen, that we get into this like crazy rhythm where we have to release like crazy episode after episode, and I
Yeah.
like to do it when I can, not because I must. So
Yes.
I already have a job. I don't need another one.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's a
I
very
guess
smart way to engage with it, I think.
I guess that's the idea. And
Tom,
Joker is
can I
the
ask you a
same.
question about
Yeah.
it? Just because you were just talking about it before, I wanted to ask you a question about the Polish scene.
Mhm.
So Poland seems to have this absolute weapon of a team.
They do.
But
They're world
obviously,
killers.
news just in. But like I've just seen on LinkedIn today randomly that Krakow is looking for a new they've opened a new store in Krakow. And it's like one of those things of how did the Polish scene get to where it was? If why Poland and why nowhere else, right? Because we know obviously the UK obviously would do really well because this is where it started. America would do really well because English speaking country. How come Poland of all European countries really like kicked on and just absolutely beast people?
I guess it depends who you ask, but the most common answer probably is that, and it might sound silly or a little bit of a cliche, but like we've always felt like this sort of Eastern Europe sort of thing that doesn't have access to all the nice things that the West has. So we
Mm.
have to try way more than anyone else to be
Yeah.
on the sort of same level, I
Yeah.
guess. So that might be the background.
Mm.
But the Polish people are also extremely competitive. We have a very robust, uh, like ninth age scene, or I don't know, the other Warhammer
Yeah.
scene, and our players also were quite successful at the ETC/WTC there, because I don't know if this is still a thing, but at the ETC in the past, it used to be like a set of competitions where you would play Ninth Age, 40k, Star Wars maybe, and then you would get like this whole, I don't know how you call it, like plague. That like the whole mastery of the world was comprised of different systems,
Mm.
and
Cool.
Poland usually wins that in all of those systems. So even if like the 40k team does a little bit worse, the other systems actually pull us up. so
Yeah.
so yeah, so but why? Um, I don't know. It's just I think Pumba was asked a similar question this year, and he just said that Polish people are extremely competitive. They try way more, and they have this extreme discipline when they prepare for
Mm.
events. So like the preparation for the WTC starts the next day after the previous WTC finishes.
Yeah.
So we already know our selectors. There is already a national team Discord that is separate to like the all Polish Discord, where people are already playtesting things, trying out things, and
Mhm.
there is like this wide selection for now where people
Yeah.
just chip in ideas, and like the whole community works together. This is also a new thing, I think, post COVID or during COVID. This started when we moved on from forums to Discord, uh, and yeah, and like the whole community started being involved. So it wasn't like a clique of people who wanted to go to the WTC. It turned into like 50, 60 active people actually contributing towards the team. So
Yeah.
I guess it could be explained like this. It's a mixture of different factors.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that.
Absolutely. But I think that that proving people wrong and that working harder thing, I think those are genuinely really important points, right? And I think that's one of the reasons that I really love Contact Lost now is I think it's a much broader and wider hobby than just America and England, right? And you can fall in just because that's where there's a bunch of people gobbing away on podcasts like ours. It doesn't mean that that's the only place people are playing Warhammer, and obviously things like WTC really hammer that home. So I love getting that perspective. I think people like Typhus are wonderful, big fan of Typhus, and I think that's a really important niche to fill and something that you hope only grows. So yeah, really, really, really big fan of it. And I was delighted when Poland just smashed everybody and reminded everyone exactly why they have the reputation that they have. I thought that was excellent.
Did not
Yeah, it
like
was-
getting smashed by them.
was
It's not pleasant.
it was a privilege also to be there and
Yeah, of
experience
course.
it firsthand, especially that Typhus was he was actually representing StatCheck because he's not part of Contact Loss. He's a frequent guest.
Yeah.
But he was at the WTC as the coach, but also
Yeah.
as the expert for our panel thing.
Mm.
And you could see that with the games going, like the days passing, he was getting like more and more excited, but he didn't want to actually watch the Polish games. He was trying to stay as far away
Yeah.
from those games as possible.
Yeah.
So on the last day when the emotions were peaking, they were playing in the final against England and so on, and they already knew that they won. It was just incredible to see the joy of the team, but especially Typhus, who just broke
Yeah.
into tears. And
Oh.
like
Yeah.
it was very touching because he couldn't keep his emotions to himself
Yeah.
anymore, and like people, all the people were crying and so on because they waited for the success, I think 9 years or something like that.
Yeah.
That was the previous time when they won.
Mm.
And now with this new team, he was the father of that success, so well deserved victory, but
Yes.
the emotion filled the entire room.
Yeah,
basically,
absolutely.
so.
And that's the thing with it. I think that's one of the reasons the Polish team is a team in 40k that has genuine history, and that's a powerful thing, right? The fact that people have done it before, the fact that there's kind of a legacy, and it seems like so much of the work and the effort in Poland goes into prepping for that, and that everyone's kind of pulling together to do that, and I think that's
Correct.
amazing. I think we see a lot of other countries looking at that and going, "Oh, we should do that," but it's like that's easier to say than to do, right? It's not an easy thing to manufacture. So yeah, I've absolutely loved the Polish, and I hope they smash everyone again next year. To be honest, it's good fun. Wonderful. Okay, so yeah, if you haven't listened to Contact Lost, guys, I highly recommend it. Absolutely do check them out. Wonderful content covering a whole range of different things. They're very busy boys. I know Tomek says he wants to work whenever he wants rather than when he has to, but it's they have great output. They really do. And,
Oh yeah,
and
those,
there's a
you did
lot
all
of
the
really-
videos in the lead up to LGT that were just awesome.
Yeah, it was so good. The LG and it like got everyone really hooked on WTC and LGT this year, which was awesome.
Stop it.
Right,
Stop
we've
it.
praised you enough. We've praised you enough. Now
Yes,
we're going to make you do a
thank
ridiculous game.
Harness your skills at this
So,
ridiculous
if
game.
you're just joining us now, we are about to start the most important tier list we have ever made, which is the 40k spookiness tier list. So here it comes. There is the tiers. Put
Oh.
this over here.
Woo.
There we go. So we've got all the factions in 40k, or at least a lot of them, and we are going to rank them definitively for you tonight based on their spookiness. And we will try to argue and determine exactly what should go where and work out if we can get a true grip on the spookiness of 40k factions on this wonderful Halloween night. So I'm going to kind of throw them out to you one at a time, guys. But if people want to jump in, do absolutely feel free. And we're going to rattle through these and see what we come up with. And it looks to me like the first on our list is the AdMech. Do you want to start perhaps with you, Davey? What do we think about the AdMech in terms of spookiness?
Well, I mean, they're robot people, right? So, like,
Yep.
they're cyborgs and shit. They're like the Borg in Star Trek. Right? If you're thinking, like, if you can turn it scary like that, in a sense.
Yep.
I think they're pretty scary. Like, the kind of
They're at the scarier end for the Imperium, aren't they? I always think it's in the Chaos and the Xenos. There's probably some like creepier stuff going on, but AdMech are pretty creepy. Like they're replacing all their body parts with machinery. That's pretty spooky, I think. They're pretty. They've got a lot of sinister, sneaky plans that they're always up to.
That's the directness in it. It's they're kind of some of the stuff you see on the Warhammer Plus series.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
the Angels of Death one, right? With the
so brutal.
techno-archaeologist or whatever it was. It's pretty pretty brutal.
A lot of body horror in there as well.
Yeah, that's it. So I think from a sort of Halloween perspective, they definitely have some horror dimensions going on in there.
Yeah, they do seem kind of soulless to the point
Yeah.
where, like, you cannot usually, especially with like the all the enhancements that they have to like faces and so on. I don't know, the breathing apparatuses and the lenses that they have instead of eyes and so on. You cannot really read them like you could read a human face, so you
Yes.
never know whether they are actually on your side or against you, and whether like there is this whole concept of dark mechanicus, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
So you never know whether whatever the tech priest is standing in front of you, whether he actually has good intentions or
Yeah, exactly.
just
You never
want
know
to
if he's
cut
on
you up
your
into
side.
pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, completely. What do you reckon, John?
And they make cherubs out
Oh,
of dead
yeah.
babies to
Oh,
dead guns.
yeah,
That's pretty gross.
Okay.
That's terrifying,
That's
right?
messed up, if you ask
That's
me.
some pretty scary stuff. Where are we feeling then? What do we reckon?
Let's start with B. Just
Okay. Get our eye in with B,
and
that
then
is
we
some
can
pretty-
adjust at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
you're a
that's gonna
much
fly up,
you're a
right?
much more rational head than me. I'm the
Yeah.
kind of person who always starts way too high and then has to adjust everything. Okay, wonderful. So that is the Adeptus Mechanicus. They are going in at B tier. Next up, an army you'll all be delighted to hear about once again, having not talked about it enough for several months. It is Eldar. What do we reckon to Eldar? Tom, do you want to take point on this? Where do we reckon Eldar are on spookiness?
Eldar. Are we talking like just Craft World?
This is Craft World variant, yes.
So the Eldar themselves, I wouldn't say extremely spooky. However,
No.
I do recall what was it? I think of like a cinematic video from Dawn of War 2 where you
Mhm.
have Eldar attacking Space Marines in the middle of the night, howling banshees or warp spiders just teleporting and so on. They did look kind of spooky, and then until the dreadnought burnt them, but which was extremely enjoyable now that I think of it. But they do have this whole wraith bone.
Yes, I was going to
concept.
say the
So-
wraiths are a bit spooky, aren't they?
So yeah, so again, difficult to read because they don't have faces almost. So kind of anything that is like emotionless and so on and difficult to read for me is kind of spooky or eerie or you name it. So
I remember their voices in Dawn of War were quite spooky. The way they did that with the kind of like layered sort of digital sound over it, that was really. If they actually do sound like that, then that's pretty spooky to me.
Yeah.
We've got Shiruni in the chat who reckons Eldar are probably a C, and I can see the case for that. I think there's spooky elements, but also I don't know about you. I don't find aspect warriors particularly spooky. I don't find like there's a different color for each one and they all do a job. It's like that's not like crazy scary to me. I agree. Howling banshees are a bit spooky. Maybe Dark Reapers a little bit. Yeah, actually, Dark Reapers are quite Halloweeny, aren't they? Really. I mean, look.
Yeah, they look like a cheap Tesco Halloween outfit. Like,
Yeah, like this point.
So
absolutely.
I'm trying to think of their depiction in different things, and the first thing that comes to mind is Dawn of War 1,
Yeah.
where the Dark Reapers had probably one of the deepest voices in the game, and they
Yes,
were
you're right.
quite amazing. So
They really were. Yeah, you're right. The Dawn of War representation of Eldar actually really made them feel a bit more like ethereal and eldritch.
Mhm.
So yeah, okay.
Yeah, but then you see like Dire Avengers. You're like, if you look at Dire Avengers, you're like, oh, these
Yeah, they've
guys
just
are
got nice
dirt.
plumes on, right?
Yeah, like get these guys in the bin. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think the Eldar faction isn't that spooky, like as a whole. But if I'm
Yeah.
drawing them first round at the Nottingham GT, I'm shitting my pants. Like, Shadow Spectres are not what I want to be seeing in my first round game. That is spooky in my eyes.
and if Morgan Ra does anything for the faction, he doesn't do damage or anything. He doesn't even appear on the table, but he does look like a cheap imitation of Mortarion.
Yeah, he is. He's certainly got a bit
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
creepiness
That's a good
about him.
show.
Okay, so I feel like they've got some spookiness about them.
I think you're missing something here, though. They grow
yeah?
guns out of bone and then shoot you to death with needles,
Yeah.
because that's what the shuriken guns are.
Uh-huh.
And then the Wraith Knight is piloted by twins. To have the
Oh,
two
yeah.
twins, one's dead, one's alive.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
That's-
They actually choose to die so they can do that. How bonkers is that?
Okay. That is horrible. That is
It
horrific.
wasn't wasn't there a 90s sitcom where a guy and his friend were dead and he would talk to him all the time? Like
Teen Angel.
I thought of Pacific Rim when Scrivo mentioned that, and like,
Yeah,
it's just really sinister to me. It's like they literally
Talk to me about
that's
these
the
bone
choice.
guns, Scrivo. I don't understand the bone guns. Tell me about the bone guns.
Wraithbone, they grow stuff out of Wraithbone, which is actually just organic bone that they can grow. So they make everything. Everything's made out of Wraithbone. So these
so you're telling
giant
me
walking
they grow
robots made of
bones like tree.
bone.
They grow like bones like we grow a tree.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
And then
not
they make
scary,
then they make
there's
giant
nothing on
suits
the
of
bones of the
armor
gun.
that they then get a soul stone, which holds the soul of someone that's just died, and they basically haunt that suit of bone armor.
The chat's lighting up about this, by the way. And I agree, there's some voices in here arguing that we do need to try and have some kind of measure, because obviously there's going to be some variety here. I think there's definitely enough going on in Eldar that you can make the case that they are spooky to an extent. But I also think there's a bit of a goody two-shoesness about it at times that sort of sets them back. It's like they're not quite as... Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It's one facet of them, right?
Yeah, they're a bit like carry on scaring.
Are we? Where are we going to aim for then? What are we thinking?
Man, I think Shirini's right.
Yeah,
I think it's
C.
I think C's probably fair for now, and we can adjust
if they were
them.
just wraiths as a faction, then they'd be high.
Yeah. And there are spooky bits to their history. I mean, the Fall is also spooky, but we don't want to credit all of that to them.
It was
because
sexy.
The true architects of the Fall will come up a bit later on. Okay, so we'll put Eldar in C for now. It's just nice to have them low down on a tier list. I think that's good to have for a change. So, John, next up, looks to me like we've got Blood Angels.
Well, it's definitely a better tragedy than the end of the Twilight trilogy or series.
Yep, there's a bit of that going on, right?
They're space vampires that have PTSD of flashbacks of their dad dying. That's pretty grim.
It is grim.
It's pretty
grim.
Is
dark.
Does sound like a BBC 4 like new young adults TV show.
Yeah, it does a little bit, and they're all going to have swoopy fringes.
Yeah.
It does feel like a bit of an Anne Rice love story, I suppose, which is pretty Halloween-y.
Yeah, it's not that spooky.
No.
Flesh Terrors are pretty spooky at times with the actually killing people and doing all the bad stuff.
Well.
But there is the vampire dimension definitely gets them off the bottom, for sure.
Yeah. It doesn't feel spooky. It feels horror-themed, which doesn't necessarily kind of equate to spooky to me. I guess that's the challenge. What do we mean by spooky?
The battle to quantify spookiness. What do you reckon, Tomek?
I mean, again, the Space Marines as a whole, not very spooky.
I agree.
But then when you go into those spicy details, I guess Blood Angels, let's forget the whole vampiric bit for a moment, but they do have Death Company. Yeah. And Death Company is probably the closest to spooky that Blood Angels can get, because they have they look way spookier. I think the first time I saw their models, they had like those flames on their backs and so on. So if I saw someone like that, like in the dark alley, I would shit my pants. So in that way, they probably are spooky.
Yeah.
But the whole notion of like Space Marines as a whole, there is a plethora of words I could use to describe them. Spooky probably is not the one.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the fact that they're slightly unusual and the floor gets them off the ground, but probably, Space Marines are just a bit too bland and a bit too goody two-shoes again to be right up there. So maybe C for them as well? Does that feel fair? Or do we?
Are they spookier than Eldari?
Not really.
I think they are.
You think they are?
Yeah, I mean, you've got Mephisto, man. He's an actual vampire.
It's basically just vampires, though, isn't it?
He's a big, like, hammy vampire. He's got a cape and, like, skulls on his side of his cape.
He does have a cape, but Eldar have got, like, 3 different models that are spooky, whereas Blood Angel's got, like, 1. I don't know.
Asterath can be a bit spooky.
Yeah, it can be a bit spooky.
His face is spooky just because...
Let's put them in
Madara
C.
kind of haunt my lists right now. Like they haunt my
Put
GW app.
in
Every
C
decision's
for
made
now.
on those.
Yeah.
Because we've got a few coming up that are going to help us establish a slightly higher bracket, so that's good. Next up, he's not creepy, he just wants to die, says Sharuni.
Yeah, and Dante
ain't
as
that
well,
the
the
case?
guy that he's like, I just want to retire, and they're like, no, you just got to keep being the Lord of the Vampires.
So good, so good. Right, next up, Chaos Demons.
I mean, it's pretty spooky.
Yeah, I mean, you get some great lore for Chaos Demons where all sorts of horrific weird shit's happening, right?
Yeah,
They're splitting out of people.
Oh, it's choose your own horror adventure. Do you want like crazy angry demons, or do you want ones that will like some kind of Lovecraftian bullshit that eyes pop out of your bumhole? Like, what flavor of horror do you want?
Yeah.
Sexy horror?
I never tend to find them that like scary, but then I've never actually confronted a real demon. Whereas
Yeah.
when it's just toys, it's easier to be a bit like detached from it.
I don't think the models do them justice, because literally them having this kind of like this is how a blue horror looks is actually not how they are kind of described. That they are kind of shifting, constantly distorting themselves, making kind of almost like a mirror of yourself, and being all really quite sinister. So it's actually really quite like it is quite uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
instead, the models are just here you go. They all look the same.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, there is nice variety in them to sort of speak to all kinds of horrors that you can think of. You have the sort of like devil, I don't know, devil fiery pit sort of, bloodthirster demon, and then you have the other kind of horror-y thing that you see in the movies are zombies and like pus everywhere, or like cesspits and so on. So you have Nurgle, and then goats are also associated with like the devil and the scary stuff and horror. So you have Zinch that actually has goats, but perhaps not the scariest goats out there, but still. And then you have, as you said, that Slanesh, like the fiends, never spoke to me. I don't understand what they are exactly. But if you think like of the chariots and imagine what the chariots could do to you, then that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are just all sorts of horror-y flavor out there.
Yeah, and I think all of that kind of mutation and manipulation, and again, in game we know that they're an army that's supposed to impact on morale and bravery and all those kinds of things as well, and that's part of how it functions. So they're obviously meant to be spooky. How high do we reckon that gets them?
I think it's got to be top, right?
We go top? Go S? I mean, we can put them
They're
in
literally
there. They are the manifestation of our nightmares, right?
Fears, right?
Yeah.
Like any of our things, yeah.
Sharuni with another great comment. There's a story in the Lord of Silence book where a bunch of Nurglings eat a woman alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jack was trying to venture that Nurglings aren't scary, but there's some very good lore bits where Nurglings just fuck shit up. Like, there's one where I think it's like a land speeder pilot or something, or a vehicle pilot gets absolutely done by Nurglings, and it's horrible. It's horrific.
And I don't know if you've seen that episode on Warhammer Plus with Death Guard. I mean, closely related to demons. And there is this moment where I think it's a sorcerer that turns one of the plague marines into like a demon. So he makes himself. He makes him eat himself almost.
Yes.
And then there is like this little Nurgling who sits on his shoulder like your pumpkin, and this Nurgling is just giggling, in a sinister way all the time, and clearly
that's making me feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
clearly having fun
right?
watching at this.
Yeah.
Atrocious, spectacle. So yeah, definitely, I think they deserve an S.
Yeah, well done, demons. Good work, laying down a marker for these other prissy factions. Next up, looks to me like Chaos Knights. Chaos Knights. I'm not actually an expert on Chaos Knights, but I know that they affect Battle Shock, and I hate it.
Following the data slate, they're not scary anymore.
Oh, I don't know. A giant space tractor that's been possessed by a demon that can walk through walls.
Yeah, they are possessed. That is a good point.
Pretty mean.
They are up there. They're definitely pretty scary. Although I find just big crashy monsters a bit less freaky. It's not that complicated.
Ah, man. Okay, so let's put it like this. What about this as a metric? If a kid come to your door dressed as a demon, you'd be like, "Oh, that's a pretty good costume." If they come to your front door dressed as a knight, you'd be like, "Doofus, what is this? What is this mess? You just come as a robot." I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling spookiness of Imperial Knights personally.
It's
Wait, are we
Chaos Knights,
talking?
isn't it?
Yeah,
This
we're
is
talking
Chaos
Chaos
Knights. This is
Yeah.
Chaos Knights.
Oh, Chaos Knights. Oh, they're scary. They walk through walls.
That's what I just said. It's like you're not listening.
I thought we were on Imperial Knights.
What a U-turn! What a U-turn!
Oh,
Yeah, they are.
sorry,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not disputing that
Throw
they're
'em up there.
scary. I think they're definitely scary. I'm just trying to work out how we grade them. Are they? Do they make it to the demons? Do they make it to S tier? Are they as scary as that?
They're diluted demons, though, aren't they? A little bit. So that quintessential kind of purity of the depravity isn't there.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I think the being big stompy monsters just slightly constrains
Hmm.
the scope you've got for freaking people out. As there's a few in here where we'll go through where there's a lot more that taps into all of our fears and horrors about what can happen to humans and how bad it can get.
Because they're kind of sat between Admech and demons, then, which feels like a natural place for them to be.
Yeah.
So what a
Yeah.
So I don't know like the exact lore of Chaos Knights because I've never like tapped into this, but I imagine that what happened with them was they were Imperial Knights that got sucked into the warp, mutated by the warp and by the Chaos powers, and then came out of the warp as Chaos Knights. And now, if you're you live on a human or Imperial planet, and you see that there are demons attacking, and then from the sky comes this how do you pronounce it, Legio Mortis or something. You think, oh great, Imperial Knights are coming to help, but then this behemoth comes with spikes sticking out, howls and shoots you and flames you to death and so on. That is kind of scary. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
And judging by my recent games against Joker, who plays Chaos Knights, and I have like a really bad record against him. I just cannot defeat him with his 6 brigands and 4 or 5 carnivores. That for me, it's one of the spookiest factions out there right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair because I was going to say again, in game, just like demons, they have a bunch of leadership stuff that your army just breaks down and stops functioning, doesn't it? Because they just make your units all shit themselves and stop holding objectives, which is really annoying.
So the only thing with Chaos Knights, right, that I would kind of say, like, just to try and demystify them a little bit, is when you go to like a shopping centre and there's a car park and there's like all the boy racers are there with their different like, oh, look at my spoiler, look at how lowered my car is. I kind of feel like Chaos Knight owners, like the people who drive them, obviously stick in sticks. Like, oh, watch, I'm going to put like 6 spikes on mine. Oh wow, 6 spikes. Have you got a skull to put on that? Yeah. Oh wow, that'd be cool. Like, I just think, like, I just get the impression that they're just like wanking themselves off about how scary they can make it.
Check out my
like,
Subaru.
no one's driving it. It's just like an empty vessel. Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's the
a
thing for
car.
me. I just think that the fact that they're all big walkers just slightly limits the scope of how much you can scare people with it. But I think they're probably still A. Do we think A?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Okay.
A feels about right. They're definitely scary, and they're definitely scarier than the Goody Two Shoes stuff we've already had. Welcome, Existence UK. Lovely to have you here. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Oh, next up, Chaos Space Marines. So, Night Lords, and any Night Lords books will put the fear of God into you on the Chaos Space Marines front. They are horrific. Absolutely horrific. They do a lot of awful, awful, awful things. And are all about spooking people. That said, sometimes people find Night Lords a bit of a joke.
I mean, those helmets are a joke, man.
mostly when I'm running them.
Yeah. Well, imagine like you've got this superhuman space marine. You're like, God, this guy's intimidating, but my God, I'm glad he's on our side. And then he turns around and his face is all like just needle teeth. And then he starts licking with a massive tentacled tongue. And then it turns out his arm's actually a massive big claw. And he just obliterates your family. That sounds pretty horrifying to me. Like these things, they grow like mutilators and all those stupid gun guys that we never see. Oh God, I'm blanking the name, but you know what I mean. Like they literally pervert and corrupt into these Yeah, and then Forge Fiends. Oh my god, it's literally a demon engine. So it's a vehicle that's become a sentient creature where the machine spirit has become a demon instead, and it's literally just growing. Instead of it just being something that we go and put and fix in a garage, it suddenly starts growing and having feelings and wants and needs. And
Yeah,
those needs are to butcher people.
I was
It's
trying
horrible.
to when I started playing Death Guard last year. One thing that I could not comprehend was why the Hellbrute doesn't have an invulnerable save, because I thought it was a demon. Until I started reading about the Hellbrute, and it turns out that it's not a demon that is
No.
piloting it. It's like a psychopathic Chaos Space Marine inside that is like so
In a coffin.
spoiled and in a coffin that is locked inside and is trying to get out but cannot, and so on. It's just
Ooh.
going more and more insane, like boiling in his own juices and so on, which is like crazy. But that's the reason why they don't have an invulnerable save, because it's just a Space Marine that is going insane inside.
Tortured Space Marine.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of wacky. Um,
Also,
and
dragons.
dragons, and also I think if you look at I don't know if we have like World Eaters separate. Yeah, we do. On
Yeah,
this
we
list,
do.
But,
We do.
but those are like, I think Eightbound are technically guys who have a demon inside and actually beat it, and they they are part demon, part human, but humans are prevailing. So I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
8 demons, isn't it, as well? Because that's what they're bound with 8 demon
Eight
souls.
demons?
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
So that's
crazy.
kind of
8
amazing.
bound. It's terrifying.
Possessed and accursed cultists, all the mutations, I think. And again, it's got that kind of evil, giving yourself up to the devil kind of line in there. They're all selling their souls.
So
And then
I watch I watch a lot of Major Kill, so I get all my lore from Major Kill, and he always goes on about this lady that was, it might be more of a World Eaters thing, but she was like the captain of the ship of one of the World Eaters ships, and then after a while she just became part of the ship.
Yeah.
Like wires coming into her and shit. Like
grew into the ship. Yeah.
yeah, so cool, man.
Yeah. So I think I would probably put these guys very high. I think some of the legions are more spooky than others, but I think if we're grading them as a whole, I think they come in pretty
Baseline very
high.
spooky though.
Yeah,
I would put
extremely
them in
spooky.
an S tier.
I think so. I think they're the consummate baddies. Next up,
Rooney is our should be our law check, by the way. He's actually answering all the questions that we're sticking.
Oh, I saw that Sharoni is absolutely going for it with the commentary, which is awesome. So please, I'm going to read it all back later. Thank you so much for caring as passionately about spookiness as we do. This one, however, Custodes.
Oof.
Are they spooky? I don't get a spooky vibe off them.
How spooky is it that some of the best warriors of the Imperium decided to take up a broom and look after the Imperial Palace rather than go and fight against chaos?
Yeah,
That feels spooky. And they oil themselves up and walk around without anything on. That's really spooky.
yeah. Abs aren't spooky. D tier.
Yeah,
Done.
the only thing that probably makes them like a wee bit spooky is that they are probably the tool to destroy Space Marines if it ever needed to happen.
Yeah. The resort, the executions.
Yeah. So
some of the Sisters of Silence stuff is a bit creepy as well, right? With the sort of the null voids and stuff, but not really, not enough. Jack says that the Conrad Primarch book is so good for spooky. That is one of the most fucked up audiobooks I've ever listened to, Jack. The first chapter or so of the Conrad Kurz book is just horrific. It's so bad. He is a creepy, creepy man. But I love him, and I hope one day that he gets a model somehow. So Custodes in D tier, unless anyone objects. And Dark Angels next.
Not very spooky.
They're not spooky, are they? Wearing pajamas or whatever it is they've got on.
Paranoia is not spooky, and it's not something we should be joking about.
What about the little gimpy dudes? Do we think they're spooky?
The Watchers.
Do not call them gimpy.
They're kind of spooky. Right? They're like, if you didn't have, look. Here's watch in the dark. Look, I'm going to fancy dress up right now. I'm watching the guy.
He's a Dark Angel. Look how scary that is.
Look how scary I am.
Have you faced 10 Deathwing Knights that can only be wounded on a
Yeah,
4?
that is
was
scary.
pretty scary.
Nah, it's not spooky though because you know exactly what's going to happen. There's
more
no jump.
wounds.
There's no jump scare there. It's just
It's a different scary.
Yeah, it's a different. It's the inevitable doom. But nah, Dark Angels to me don't.
Nah, they're not.
It's not like they've got like a flaw or anything, do they? They don't have like. There's nothing going wrong with them.
They do. It's called
Is it just paranoia?
And that is yeah. It's the guilt. That's guilt and paranoia are not particularly scary, are they? Or spooky even. What's spookier is Caliban being reformed as a demon planet, which kind of justifies Chaos Demons being even higher. That they literally taunt people with their own homeworld that's been destroyed and go, look, we've reformed it, and it's not how you'd like it, which is horrifying. Ugh. Gross.
Right. Next up, Death Guard. They're pretty scary, John. I find them pretty scary. The Buried Dagger audiobook with all of the stuff from the fall of the Death Guard is horrific. It's really horrible stuff.
I mean, this is like a reading list for me. I need to get on this.
What do you think, Tomek?
So it's one of my factions, and I absolutely love the fact how scary they can be.
Yeah.
Like, Typhus is just this walking armor full of insects and disease and so on. Just the sheer fact that like you're trying to imagine, what they look up close is just horrid. Mortarion, probably not the scariest. I mean, he is supposed to be like the embodiment of death, but again, if you read, I don't want to spoil a lot, but if you read the Mortarion's Primarch book, the only thing that this book does to Mortarion is prove that he has absolutely no tactical acumen whatsoever. He's like really, really bad at planning. But I mean, they come from, what's the name of the planet? Jesus, I forgot.
Barbarous.
Yes. Okay. So a planet where nothing apart from like the people who lived on that planet, nothing could survive because there are like those noxious gases or whatever you call them. Again, if you just go on YouTube and check that, I think there is a guy who like reviews Warhammer Plus episodes, so you don't have to have a subscription to actually watch an episode because he reviews them, and somehow that's legal. So he does this episode about Death Guard where just the sheer like mutation of the Plague Marine, it gave me shivers and so on, like stuff coming out of his body and him consuming himself and then turning into something else, and the Death Shroud Terminators up close. All that is kind of horrible. The whole, like, how in Disney's films when you have all the princesses and they walk somewhere and flowers and so on appear, so when Death Guard walks, like everything rots and turns into shit and flies start
They're
coming
one of
out
those armies, aren't they, where like the sensory dimension, you can't really capture that in like a book or in a game, but the smell and the sound and the all of the horrific kind of decay of everything. I think they're pretty horrible, and they've also got zombies. Don't forget as well. Zombies are pretty horrible. They've got people's, the dead getting up and walking again and doing their bidding. I think they're pretty unpleasant.
Well, Shiruni does pull out a good point here. They are very happy.
Yeah, but that's the point, though, right?
Yeah, Lord of Silence is such a good book, Shiruni. I completely agree. It's a wonderful, wonderful read. There is I think the happiness spin on Nurgle's quite a recent thing, isn't it? It's come through in some of the more recent takes on Nurgle, but Nurgle demons certainly are quite jolly at times.
Is it Beasts of Nurgle that
they just want to cuddle. Yeah, they just want to cuddle, but they'll crush you.
So sinister. So it kind of reminds me of those sorts of situations like the Stay Puft in Ghostbusters. It's this really cute thing, but it's a monstrosity. But these guys have got maggots and flies, so it's even grosser. It's just that whole level of kind of like.
It's cute until you see, I think, the trailer for Nurgle Demons for Warhammer Total War. Then it stops. It absolutely stops being cute.
Yeah, they're horrific in that. Absolutely horrific.
Because it disarms you, which I think makes it more sinister.
But it's just gross at the end of the day.
And they're tragic as well, Death Guard. That's the other thing. Their fall is really horrific, really
it's all
tragic.
Typhus's fault.
When they're stuck in the warp and they're all literally just their skin's just falling off and they're all collapsing into illness.
Yeah, I love the best depiction of that are the Blightlord Terminators, actually, because
Yes.
if you look at them, I'm trying to find a model now that best shows this, but there is this guy who has like this bloated. No, I can't. I have 10 of them, and I cannot find the right one. But they have like the bloated bodies that basically
Yes.
come through the armor, and you can
Yeah.
see how horrible and hideous that. Oh yeah, like this one, for example. I don't know if you can. Where's my camera? Here. No, it's too dark.
Oh yeah, coming out the back and all of the
So
big sort
he
of
has.
skin sacks there.
Yeah,
Whoa.
that's just gross. But
Nope.
yeah, the way the models are detailed is just amazing, wonderfully gross. So I would say they're quite spooky. Yeah.
I would be tempted to S tier Death Guard as well.
Yeah, I think so.
I think for me, it's one of the most compelling legions in terms of their story. I absolutely love it. The Fall is so compelling. Oh, it's making me want to dig mine out of the garage now. Okay, next up, Death Watch.
Nope.
Nope.
D tier next.
Not very spooky. Oh, Drakari. Drakari. Pretty fucking spooky. What do you think?
And just like Dracula, these guys suck.
It's really sinister and creepy the way that they go out of their way for other people's souls to be taken by the chaos kind of gods, and they just kind of avoid it all. So it's like, at that cost, it's just it's quite gross.
Yeah, I mean, they're torturers, they're murderers, slavers.
They sculpt bodies and
with the homunculus covens.
Exactly.
I think they kind of do all the bad things. And they enjoy doing it as well.
The best bit of lore because I used to play Drukhari quite a lot in 8th edition, and Drukhari, I read a lot of lore about them. I tried to read the books, the Archon trilogy, but I couldn't get through it just because it's just, I don't know, the books are written in such a way that it was off-putting. But the best bit of lore that I read was, I think that Drukhari found like a Tau world, and Uri and Rakarth went out to the Tau like council and said, "Hey, we're actually friendly, and we would like to exchange forces. We will give you some of ours, you give us some of yours, so we could exchange experiences and so on." And the Tau were like, "Yeah, for the greater good, sure, why not?" And then what happened a couple of weeks later was like they wanted to get their representation or like emissaries back. And what happened was, in the meantime, Drukhari have actually turned all of the Tau soldiers, emissaries, and so on into grotesques, and just let them out to attack the Tau, and they destroyed the Tau world with just grotesques that they made out of them, which is ironic but spooky at the same time.
100%. Yeah, no, they're creepy as all hell. And they're that kind of villain that really loves being the villain, and that's quite unpleasant as well. I think it's another strong contender. I'm just looking at what else we've got left.
And Shiruni says, you have the classic Tau story that I can stop hearing about in any anti-Tau discussion. It's not anti-Tau, it's pro-Drukhari.
Yeah. It's such a good story. Oh dear. Oh man. And I mean, the ending, Kimura obviously is also this absolutely creepy sort of iconic place in the lore. I don't want to give anything away from Warhammer Plus, but there's a Warhammer Plus show where Kimura suddenly makes an appearance, and you know that it's all gone wrong and everyone's absolutely screwed, and it's very, very, very good. So yeah, I think possibly this is the other one I see as being S, but I would accept an A if people can make a good case.
No, I think S, man. I think you've got dudes with bat wings. Like that's pretty scary, and obviously all the things we've mentioned.
And
witches,
the gravity and the fall of the Eldar is pretty
torture
big,
and like dismemberment and doing stuff to like human and alien bodies, and just I said that I didn't read all the books, but I read some. Just the sheer idea of like the Talos or Talosai flying around the city with their like there is a description where the Talos has like a cage underneath it and just captures things and holds them inside and tortures them while it flies around the city. Yeah, it is like
It's horrible.
epitome of spooky and scary.
Yeah, absolutely. The S tier is just a bunch of armies that I have played in some capacity. It's great.
I think that says something about us.
It
as players,
does,
right?
doesn't it?
Maybe
It does.
maybe there should be like
There's a bunch of yours in the D tier as well.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a good boy. Oh,
You're a good little
that's
boy.
a shame, isn't it?
Yeah. Welcome, Dom. Hello, Dom. You're just joining us. It is the spookiness tier list. So please chip in and help us rank the spookiness of these armies. We've got a few of them down already. Some of your favourites are already down already.
Yeah,
Next up is
that's
Grey
right.
Knights. Are Grey Knights spooky?
Not really.
Not really.
They are literally the opposite of spooky. They are the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
That's it, man.
I don't know Grey Knights nor well enough to. Do they do they take themselves to any kind of creepy or spooky places in order to fight demons, or is it fairly bog standard?
They're space wizards that use magic to dispel demons. They are literally
They're just
exorcists.
party poopers, aren't they?
They're exorcists
They're no fun.
with Ghostbuster weapons.
They're just coming and telling all the demons it's time to go to bed and shutting the party down.
Yeah.
But the
Deep
spooky bit about them,
Oh,
if there's anything, is
Yep.
first of all, yeah, they do fight demons, but they are as secret to the Imperium as the demons are. If
Yes.
if the like not the members of the Imperium, but if like the
Inquisition, yeah.
no, I mean if anyone within the Imperium, like any civilian,
Your average Joe, yeah.
sees or experiences Grey Knights, probably there's exterminatus coming to the planet. Like I think the War of Armageddon or something like that happened, where demons attacked and space wolves came to the rescue. And the Inquisition just made the decision that since the people saw the demons, let's destroy the planet, because the knowledge about demons cannot come out. So Grey Knights, if Grey Knights come into action, the planet is probably doomed anyway. Even though they are there to kill the demons, the planet is going to die anyway. So the secrecy of Grey Knights, the fact that no one knows where their planet is a kind of spooky. More spooky than your average Space Marine.
And the Inquisition aren't actually really in here, but you've got Sisters and Grey Knights who are obviously both kind of Inquisition adjacent, but that they are creepy in their own way, right? The Inquisition stuff is pretty creepy.
Because the Imperium essentially, things like Space Marines to your average populace is almost a legend. They're mythical things that they've never seen, because they are literally a person working in a factory that doesn't see anything apart from other people in the factory. So if they do see this weird stuff, that's because something's gone horribly wrong.
So they're kind of like Men in Black, but instead of erasing your memory, they shoot you in the face.
Oh, Men in Black. I mean, yeah, so that doesn't get them out of D tier if that's our benchmark.
No.
I tried.
Yeah.
I see Irony is trying as well. Like demon names and so on.
It's probably what's the name of the guy in Terminator armor who literally just bounces around through the warp, just fighting them for the fun of it now?
Drago.
Drago's the one who's literally
he just
in the warp,
literally just fights for fun in there, and then just gets spat out when he's needed. It's pretty spooky, but that's it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd say I'm not actually that versed in Grey Knights lore. I need to do a bit more of it. Next up, we have the Gene Stealer cults.
Very spooky.
There's some pretty spooky shit with that, right?
It's your best mate is joining a cult, and next thing you know, there's aliens landing on the planet eating everyone. That it's literally like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but it actually is the whole planet, not just a small part of a city.
Yeah, they've got a lot of kind of those cultish elements are quite scary. There is a body horror dimension with the different generations, and there's that kind of hidden enemy, almost false flag kind of revolutionary vibe to it that's a little bit scary. Are they as scary as our top contenders, though?
I don't think they're quite demon.
I don't think that they're quite S. Because I think
it's a scarier version. It's scarier than Admech, though,
because I think one of the other things with the Gene Stealer cults is that I don't know if they just always get absolutely fucked on by anyone good, like in the lore and in the TV, in the film, everything else. Like the Space Marines just absolutely cull them whenever they're like the Angels of Death series. They're just getting absolutely murdered all the time.
But that sinister thing where they just keep existing. Because
yeah. So they're persistent, but they're not the sort of world-ending.
No.
all-conquering threat of the
They're the
galaxy, are they?
signal for the problem.
Something
aren't
else is,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
which is obviously a bit further down. So I feel like maybe
But-
A tier.
But
Oh,
aberrants,
aberrants are horrific.
they are.
Yeah, I mean, like, who'd take a stop sign and use it as a weapon? That is pretty horrifying.
Yeah.
It's a bad decision, right?
That's another good book that came out the day of Ascension. If anyone wants some GSC audio book, that's quite good, set on an AdMech world, and it's very good. They're creepy. I'd be probably inclined to say
It takes
A.
years and years and years of doing it. It's like, imagine,
Yeah.
my granddad hid his third arm so that I could have a fourth one. Like, it's,
Yeah. So
like, it's,
the first couple of chapters of the Leviathan novel is very much from the perspective of people where they're literally they don't trust their own brain because all of the end game of the Gene Stealer's kind of plan has come to fruition, and they're all kind of looking in these pipes going, this should be clear, and suddenly there's just all this stuff, and then it's not real, they're just hallucinating. So to me it's that other element as well of just like, is anything really real?
Yeah, I think A. I think they definitely have a place, and they speak to a lot of the horror, but they don't have quite the same heights of depravity and awfulness that some of those top factions do. Next up, Imperial Guard. I guess the most horrible thing with the Guard is just what they inflict on their own men, really, isn't it?
Yeah. The meat grinder itself isn't spooky.
it's not
No.
More depressing, but inevitable.
Yeah, not.
I think these are
particularly
less spooky
scary.
than just Space Marines, right?
Yeah, it's just men with just men. We're just normal men.
Toy soldiers, literally.
With
Yeah,
flashlights.
yeah. Poor Guard. But what I like with Guard, and this is why I always love a game against Guard, is that they're such a lovely foil for something scary. Like Guard versus something creepy is like always such a good game. It's always it's fun having like just the vanilla humans running around fighting up against big monsters. And I always really enjoy that.
Yeah, man, absolutely, 100%. The game is richer for them being there.
Yeah, exactly that. But I don't want to play them. And then Harlequins next. Ooh,
Scary clowns, everyone, like,
there's some pretty freaky stuff in Harlequins, isn't there?
yeah, man.
The fact that it's like an actual dance, I find that really sinister, because they can be almost silently just dancing around doing this thing, telling a story, and a side effect of that story is that you're going to get butchered, and it's not because you need to be butchered for anything you've done, it's because that's part of the story. That's pretty spooky to me. Like, I'm in the wrong place. Oops, I'm now dead.
And lore-wise, I think the fact that they are like completely unpredictable. Like,
Yes,
even the Eldar don't know if they are allies or foes. They could ally with Space Marines, but the next day they could be killing the same Space Marines, and Segora will just laugh at whatever is happening. So
and they have a lot of the weapons are quite horror-like as well. You've got kind of hallucinatory gases. You've got these filament wires that go in people and like slice them up. They've got a phase shift wristband, so you just put your hand in someone and just take their organs out. Like that's all pretty nasty. Like they're pretty gribbly in battle. So yeah, I think they've got a little bit. Yeah, Death Jesters. They're horrible. The Solitaire is quite horrible with Slanesh.
And they lose their identity when they take on the role.
Yes.
So they actually sacrifice themselves for this story, which is pretty gross as well, I suppose.
Yeah. So I feel it's interesting. Do they have more edge than Eldar, or are they in a similar sort of area to Eldar, do you think?
I think they're scarier than your average Eldar.
Yeah.
Clowns are scary.
Clowns are... Oh, sorry, clowns. Yeah, sorry, clowns are scary.
Hey, Georgie!
I don't. That freaks me right out. I hate that. I absolutely hate that.
Note to self, Tom hates clowns.
I don't like it at all. Is it a B?
I think it's the B.
Because I think they're a bit too just sort of colourful and garish to be right up in the scary places, although demons are colourful too. Right, next up, Imperial Knights. We talked about Imperial Knights. Is there much scary about an Imperial Knight? Nah. Get in the D tier with the rest of the Imperium.
Gundam Wing is not spooky.
Nah. Then it's Necrons.
Yeah.
It's a tragic thing, but they are still like soulless robots marching inevitably towards you, being destroyed, then getting back up like a zombie does, carrying on shooting even though you've blown its head off. It's terrifying, but I'm not sure it's necessarily. I suppose it's quite spooky because they've got literally like them regrowing and things around them are building things and stuff. It's that whole like Davey said earlier,
and the
the whole
weapons too, right? The stuff the weapons does to people, like whenever you see it in a game or in TV, like those guns just flay people alive. It's horrible.
Check out on YouTube the cutscenes for I think it's Nexus Pariah or something like that.
yes.
Really awesome, and there is like I think like a torture scene where Sharek or one of, or yeah, I think it's Sharek who's basically torturing humans, and then if you think of spooky, think of the flayed ones. I guess
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the
I'm a normal
example.
person. Look at me. I'm wearing
Yeah.
their skin.
I think they're one of those armies where, again, the models don't quite do justice to the sensory dimensions that would be if you were literally watching these shuffling undead metal skeletons that won't die and all the creepy green lights and everything else.
It's like the name, John, isn't it? Hello, fellow humans.
Yeah. And it's that weird. You'll hear that metallic kind of. I hated the way that Cybermen had like a really dumb sound to make their kind of stomping, but like that where you just hear this metal clanking, but like it's just tons of it, like saucepans almost, like hitting each other. Like just hearing that in the distance, you'd be like, "What on earth is that?" It's really sinister.
And I know it's kind of silly, but when I was playing Dark Crusade, so Dawn of War, and so Dark Crusade came with Tau and Necrons. Necrons were actually giving me the chills because they didn't talk. Like they were the silent race that would just, you couldn't kill them. They were extremely resilient, but they would never talk. They would just come and kill you and blow you to pieces, but they would never say a word. And that is freaking spooky.
Yeah, and Transcendent C'tans are giant ghosts. It's like Slimer wearing a choker.
You've got the whole You've got that whole like there are people that have been like tricked into giving up their physical bodies. That is pretty bleak. How high up do we think that gets them?
I think B.
B, top of B.
I reckon A. I'm with Thomas.
Oh, sorry, no,
I think they get into A.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah, fine.
What about orcs?
I think their marketing does a great job at making them not seem spooky, but literally you destroy them all and your planet is covered in their spores. They're coming back. They're fucking Chumbawambaing you.
That's not spooky, that's practical.
Yeah,
but it's an inevitability.
They're just fun and they like to fight, right? That's kind of the whole...
Yeah, but football hooligans are not fun. They ruin cities.
That is true. I've never found orcs particularly scary.
No.
I have to say.
No.
Prime orcs are, though. The Beast was scary. Do you know what's really scary is having a well-learned orc appear on Terra speaking High Gothic. That is terrifying. That is what they used to be, which makes it
spooky,
more scary.
Though, is it, John?
That's scary because that shows that if they hadn't been taken down a notch, they would be a real problem right now.
So John, if a monkey turned up at your house and it went, "Hey, John, how's it going, lad?"
I'd be like, "Hey, Davey, how you doing?"
Yes, well
I'm only saying it because you're over there and I'm safe.
I'm going to go back in my box.
I think it's really kind of it's the way that they are shown in the kind of the universe makes them. It's easy to kind of go, oh yeah, they're a bit silly and kind of.
They end up being the comic relief is the thing quite a lot of the time.
Literally, none of their weapons actually work, but they believe them to work. That's terrifying. That literally they can make anything work if they believe enough. They crash into planets using giant meteors that they've turned into ships because they're that kind of. They can make do with it being shite. That's terrifying to me in a different way. It's not necessarily spooky, but it is.
There is a voice actor. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he became quite prominent on like Instagram and TikTok for doing voice acting for Warhammer. His name is Chris Tester.
I think I might have seen some of those.
Yes,
I think he might have done an audiobook, although I haven't heard it yet. But if you go to his like Instagram, he does voice acting for like Kabanda, the corn demon, and he also does an episode or like I don't know, a short doing Gaskell.
Oh wow.
And when he does Gaskell, you get like the whole spectrum of emotions because you just listen in awe how awesome it is, but there is this bit of pride, there's this bit of admiration for a worthy opponent, and then there are moments where he just makes Gaskell sound scary, like Gaskell really wants to destroy absolutely everything out there, and you just sit there and you're just, please don't. He really does. He really does Gaskell justice. So I strongly recommend you go and check him out. By the way,
Yeah, I definitely will.
and he can make Gaskell scary.
Yeah. So I think it's something, if I was confronted with it, it would be scary.
Yeah.
Like, it's a world-crushing tide of what sort of endless warriors, isn't it? But it's just spooky. I don't know.
I think C, guys.
Yeah, I think that is fair. I think that's a lot of how they are marketed as much as anything.
Yeah, that's the most honest so far of the kind of threats to the Imperium, isn't it?
Yeah, because they are a kneecapped version of the Orcs. More importantly,
well, I think it's just because it's in some ways a little bit one-dimensional as well, right?
Yeah,
it's not sort of freaky in that sense, but definitely scary. Sisters of Battle.
Scary.
Yeah,
Scary.
I think they are scary.
There are some elements, if you take it past the sisters themselves, the fact that if someone's made a mistake, they're punished. They are made to be retributed.
The
or a
repention,
criminal
the
put into a
penitent
penance engine. They're literally tied up into an Iron Maiden and thrown into a battle with flamethrowers. That's horrifying.
Arco-flagellants. It's all
Penitent engines.
Yeah, some horrific stuff. Absolutely horrific stuff.
And they normalised carrying around with their little cherubs as well, which is, again, dead babies that have been lobotomised.
Organ music in the background.
Yeah, it's that kind of perversity of faith and religion, isn't it? That they really kind of...
I would say zealotry in any... like, any display of zealotry is scary.
It is. Yeah. No, I completely agree.
Worshipping a god that didn't want to be called a god in itself, terrifying.
I mean, it's a cult, isn't it? Right. So the same way the Gene cult is scary.
I was going to say, do they make A? Are they freaky enough to make
I
A?
think so. Yeah,
I think so. Just as we've had one of the baddie factions has dropped down to C, I think this is the Imperium one that gets all the way up into the A because there's some horrific stuff going on in there.
Yeah. Do you remember like Dan Brown's first? I mean, based on his book, the first movie, there was this guy called Silas.
Yes.
That would, like, mutilate.
Yeah, be like whipping himself.
Yeah, exactly. That's sisters for you right there.
Yeah. And that's very freaky. Okay. Great. Space Marines. I mean,
Bin.
Yeah, bin.
So the body horror of being made into a Space Marine on this tier list doesn't actually even go anywhere near, which is quite terrifying, right? That it just shows that terrifying isn't that terrifying in this context.
Space Wolves.
The werewolf.
Too funny to be scary, right?
Yeah. It's sort of saga and Viking and.
But they're literally werewolves.
My relic weapon's dangerous. I'm scary.
Yeah. The fact that they are
werewolves. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Whether that's enough, I guess it's a bit like Blood Angels, but I always feel like the Blood Angels, the sort of the horror of that is more compelling than for Space Wolves.
Well, so their dad just went off on a journey. He's gone to get cigarettes. He's not being butchered by his brother.
And their chapter master is Santa Claus. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones that I think if they in the future they could really amp up the freaky size of this with a good release for them. But
I'd love to see a Jaws film, like the film Jaws, the entire idea of it, but with Murderfang instead.
Our D tier is quite crowded, so it's just whether they get, because of thresholds, they'd get into C on that basis.
I think they're getting a C, given they
probably
are
like the lowest of C, right? Like just on the cusp.
Yeah, it's werewolves out of Twilight, but it's still werewolves.
Yeah, and Wolfen are a bit freaky in their own way.
Yeah, man.
Okay, next up, Tau.
Oh my god.
There's not much creepy about Tau, is there? Not much spooky
The
about
Vespid are pretty creepy.
Yeah, like how bad are those sculpts, man?
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah,
I
so
don't-
building
they're not
Vespids is
really.
pretty spooky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
don't
other
think
than that, I think they're
I
pretty.
think they
big.
do deserve to be in the D because
Yeah, what's
They're
lower
pretty-
than D?
They're pretty vanilla, aren't they? They're pretty vanilla.
Yeah, what is lower than D?
yeah, I think the one exception, like Shireen's just mentioned, like the Kroot, they literally take on traits from eating you.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kroot themselves are pretty scary. Like, they're pretty horrible. But the Tau in general,
Yeah,
not so much.
I mean, again, just maybe it's the zealotry part that I was speaking about earlier, but like doing the ideology of doing anything for the greater good does sound a little bit scary. But maybe I'm taking this.
No, I know what you mean, and I think in more recent versions they've talked up like brainwashing and stuff, haven't they, for the ethereals, and made it a bit more sinister in terms of the sort of adherent to the greater good. So that is a little bit creepy, but
I mean,
just whether it gets
kind
them
of the
into C.
caste system as well. I suppose that's kind of you're forcing people that they have to go and do a specific role. It's the illusion of freedom's a little sinister, but it's not necessarily spooky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
also I think it's just because people on the internet didn't like the idea of a pseudo-communist faction being good.
I suppose stealth suits and ghost kills are a little bit spooky because they literally stand around hiding and murdering stuff without you seeing them. But even then, that's stretched it, right?
Yeah, you're really working hard
Yeah,
for that one.
I'm trying my best, but there just isn't anything there really. Like,
Yeah.
unless you don't
Sharini
like
says the
hooves.
Imperium sees the Tau and GSC mentality is the same from what I understand. I do get that, to be
Yeah.
fair. I think there's just something about the way the GSC threat kind of comes from within and poisons the society from the inside, whereas Tau sort of are very meat and potatoes, go and conquer worlds and build their empire and all that stuff. There's not many surprises there. Next up, we've got Thousand Suns.
Ooh, suits of armor that are haunted by their former owners. That are just the dust in the bottom.
Yeah.
That is pretty spooky in the traditional sense.
They're ghostly, dustly boys, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they've been mutated. I don't find them quite as scary as Death Guard in terms of.
Like for spooky terms, they're up there, but
They're up
it's a
there.
little bit more honest. It's more like
Yeah,
Casper.
and it's
Casper
like,
rather than watching The
we
Exorcist.
fucked around with magic and we found out. It's like, yeah, okay, shocker. Like that's the story.
We were told not to do this, and we did it. Oh shit!
Yeah. That
My
as
hands
well.
burnt.
Like,
I touched the fucking radiator. Well
yeah,
done.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, and it's very much like, yeah. I mean, you brought that on yourself.
And even if you take away like all the memes on the internet and so on, their Primarch is just absolutely not scary. I don't know. Magnus is just tragic, maybe scary, not so much.
I think the scariest bit is that they're still calling him Magnus the Red because he was originally meant to have red hair, and now he's got red skin. It's like they realised people couldn't understand why he was being called Magnus the Red. That's pretty spooky to me.
I mean, I've been called Davy the Ginger my entire life. I understand why it never worked.
And you also did nothing wrong.
Where do we think they fall?
B?
Top of B?
I feel like top of B as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to start
because at least there's that whole suits of armor thing. It's tragic but spooky.
Yes.
And then the ones that didn't are like all mutating, which is pretty scary and spooky, I suppose. Like the guys that saved everyone have got tentacly arms now.
Yeah. I think sometimes with Thousand Suns, it's just that they're a bit too clean cut, and I feel like they're another one where the models don't quite give it away, right? If you could actually see all this stuff shimmering and changing and warping in front of you,
like I love the idea
appreciate how scary it is a bit more.
The suits of armor walking with like as they're moving, there's like a dust cloud behind them, just because and it just be sinister, slow moving things rather than just like I've moved them 5 inches.
Yeah,
it just doesn't translate.
Next up, the Great Devourer. It is the Tyranids.
I think they are scary, but when you look at like, it's the models that make me just like kind of. It's a meme. Like they could be terrifying. Like
Yeah.
if you read any Lovecraft or are into that kind of vibe, like they could be terrifying. But you just see the models, and you're like, Haruspex is pretty cool, but it's not like
I mean,
almost
again,
memey.
Haruspex was also the first thing that I thought about. And do you know where the name comes from? Actually,
Oh no, I don't actually. But go on.
so Haruspex or Haruspic is actually a name of a pagan. Uh, what do you call them? Like a pagan priest
Okay.
who would foresee the future using the intestines of his victim. So he would fortune tell by cutting someone open, taking out their guts, and just saying, "Yeah, it's going to be sunny tomorrow." So that in itself is kind of scary. And then when you
That
think
is.
what the model could be like in reality, then potentially. But I cannot run away from this whole like the Tyranids are the bugs from Starship Troopers.
Yeah,
And that is
I'm there with you.
terrifying. That is
Yeah.
terrifying.
They definitely like any kind of. I remember getting the 8th Tyranid Codex and reading that, and it does really put the fear into you. Like they're the thing everyone is afraid of in the galaxy, right? They're the greatest, scariest threat. They're the thing that other things
adapts.
run from.
It genetically adapts and twists itself to be the
Yeah.
most efficient at killing you.
Yeah.
Again, were the Zerg scary in StarCraft? Not really.
No, not really. No.
It's just yeah.
I think in some ways it's because it's so unhuman.
Yeah.
Again, there's not that corruption element that I think what is scary about some of the top ones is the way there's something human there that's being corrupted and changed and distorted. Whereas with Nids, they're just going to eat you.
This is a slasher film compared to watching proper body horror, I think is the difference, right?
Yeah.
This is Jason with a dagger,
murder.
right? It's just a
Yeah.
murdering guy comparatively.
But it is coming to eat the entire universe, which is
But it's not yet.
but pretty freaky.
So at the
I
beginning
like
we
the
were
Facebook
thinking,
algorithm is getting better at it every single day.
Sorry, Tommy, you were talking.
yeah. At the beginning you were like, what is our measuring stick for spooky?
Yeah.
So I think with you could take Tyranids and then think like, what is spookier to you? The perspective of meeting a Tyranid face to face, or like a demon, or a Necron?
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
And to me, the idea of being torn to bits and eaten is kind of more spooky than meeting a Necron who's going to like zap me and disappear.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And their spores create you hallucinating.
And it's
as
all
they're about to
raining
land
from
on
the sky, and
there's
the shadow
some
in the
real
warp
weird
element as well, the psychic
Yeah,
element.
the shadow of the warp stuff's pretty
Yeah.
scary.
So I
The
think they
whole
are
term-
supposed to be pretty terrifying.
Are they more scary than Drakari?
It's a different scale, isn't it? It's what one Drakari would do to you is scary, but it's what Tyranids are going to do to the whole world that's scary by comparison.
or to a sector even. It's scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, Drakari is
Are they
like
more-
this madman out there on the streets that
Yeah,
you know that he's there and he can, if he catches you, he's going to catch you up. While Drakari is like this animal at large that ran away from the zoo, basically.
Yeah.
A pack of
Are they
them,
scarier than
perhaps,
Chaos
yeah.
Knights?
Yes.
Yeah,
Pretty tough.
definitely.
Yeah.
I think so. I think they probably are S tier.
Maybe between Death Guard and Drakari?
Yeah, well, I think probably, yeah. If we reorder this, do we think demons are the most scary of the scary? Where do we think on this? I think
It's the
so.
four colours of. It's the four flavours of
All
horror.
the flavors of
almost.
horror. Right? And I think the thing is, if GSC are scary, they're only scary because Tyranids are more scary, and that's the way it all connects up, right?
Yeah.
I like that.
So
they're the
GSC are an A.
sequel. Yeah,
Yeah,
GSC
exactly.
are the first film, and then the sequel that has to ramp it up is the Nids. Yeah.
And they're actually another one, Tyranids, where it's the lack of noise, the sort of shuffle of just hundreds and hundreds of bodies just rustling at you en masse and just crashing into you, like horrible.
Wet clicking noises. Like, think about Alien.
Yeah.
You don't see it. You don't hear it. You start to hear it, and then if you're hearing it, it's too late. Oh my god.
Right. Tell you what's not scary. Leagues of
Short
Blood.
people.
No, they're not scary.
Do
They're
you
all.
know what's more scary?
They're not
like,
scary
for
at
me,
all.
Short
Is
people.
is
Oh,
it's the fact that they're listening to a senile AI. That's pretty scary to me.
Yeah.
That's not spooky.
They're
That's
clones,
scary. Oh my
and
god.
that's a bit weird. But they're not. I don't know. They need to do a little bit more work with Votan lore before they're spooky. I think they're
We're
fairly
currently ruled by the Tory party, Scrivo, so I think that's about the same.
Oh, don't
Oh
remind
my
me.
god. Oh my god. Every time you say that word, I have to drink.
We've got one more of these.
Ah,
It's the World
classic.
Eaters.
It's the A tier.
Yeah,
Do you think they're
let's
18?
go.
They're
I
not
don't know much about World Eaters lore, so I'm willing to be told a story.
like the 8-bound being literally possessed by 8 demons while still being in control is more terrifying than someone that's been kind of overcome by the demon, because that means there's someone still in control and they're happy that it's happening. Or even if they're not happy, they're just making do. That terrifies me.
Yeah.
And they just want to get as close to you as possible. It's like Jason X. It's like he's in space now. He's just ramped up and he just wants to come and butcher you all, and nothing's getting in the way. Not even
Yeah,
the
the
fact
whole
that there's a
butcher's
space marine in
nails
the way.
thing, that's pretty creepy.
Yeah.
I think the scariness here comes from the rage, right? The absolute unbridled rage. Like I think Shiruni's compared them to orcs, right?
Yeah.
I think
similar.
orcs there's not rage in orcs. It's just like, yeah, we would have fought, but world eaters are just so intensely angry, and
Yeah.
that's terrifying. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, but at the same time, it is quite one-dimensional, which again, Shiruni said in the chat. Shiruni should have really been on this show, to be honest. I think
Yeah.
Shiruni has a lot
my
of
thoughts exactly.
Shiruni really has some fantastic insights about all of this. So thank you very much for this. But yeah, I think where you get all the variety that's quite horrifying with some of the Chaos factions, obviously World Eaters don't do that. It's just, here is the rage, here is the anger.
Yeah.
So 8 is probably about right for them. Okay, great. Right, well, we have completed our spookiness tier list. I'm just going to roll down it. If any of you have any last minute alterations, because it will be really important, because obviously there'll be a spookiness data slate soon. So it's important that GW knows how spooky different factions are. And if we get this wrong, they might accidentally adjust the spookiness of the factions incorrectly. So first up, we've got Chaos Demons, CSM, Tyranids, Death Guard, and Drakari in the S tier. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
I think all my worst nightmares are in that one. Then we've got Chaos Knights, GSC, Necrons, Sisters, World Eaters in the A tier.
Each for different reasons, but yeah. It feels that they're in.
Sisters as the freakiest Imperium makes a lot of sense to me, I think.
Yep.
Thousand Suns, Admech, Harlequins in B. Can definitely see that.
I think Admech could be higher. Sorry to.
You reckon?
Admech's scarier than Sisters.
They're
I
different
don't
kind
think
of scary.
they are as scary, because I think with Admech it's cold. It's that kind of cold logic, whereas with Sisters it's the sort of the zealotry and the passion and the self-immolation that comes with that. That to
Very
me
true.
is a lot scarier than being like detached.
Fair point.
Then Eldari, Blood Angels, Orcs, Space Wolves, C, and then basically the rest of the Imperium and Tau and Leagues of Votan in D.
I do think things like the Space Marines are probably more spooky and scary than something like Votan, purely for the fact that they are big superhuman cultists of an Imperium cult that go around butchering things because they're told to and don't question it.
And it's a bit chapter by chapter, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
You do have some chapters with particularly freaky backstories. Great. Okay, wonderful. Thanks for joining us for that. That was our spookiness tier list. I'm conscious we've had Tomek on for an hour and a half, and he might want to escape soon. So, Tomek, how are you holding up?
Yeah, I'm quite good. My dog's probably not so much. I just saw my wife through like the opening in the door, giving me signs that it's probably time to walk them. So
Wonderful. Okay. Well, if we can, we'll do a handful of listener questions, but we're very happy to let you go now if that works for you, man. Because thanks so much for coming on. It's been amazing.
Yeah, it's been an absolute blast.
Yeah, we'll have you back again soon. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye,
Cheers.
guys.
Take care, man.
How do I drop from this?
Just close the window.
I'm going to remove you.
All right, that's fine. Thanks, everyone. Good.
Well, there we go. He's gone.
Hey, that's really funny. And then, so we don't need the tier. Actually, I'll leave the tier list up because we've just worked hard on it. So do some listener questions. If you have any questions, you can bung them in the chat. Obviously, Halloween-related questions, very, very welcome. Let's see what people left this week. So, they're still arguing about Jaffa cakes. The chat are awful. The chat are absolutely awful. So,
No one cares about VAT, guys. Get a hint.
there was a question for Tweet, but he had to go. So there was a question about
We've got to get back on now.
That's unfortunate. But Sindri asks, favorite Halloween or horror film? It's a bit of a cop out answer, but I really like Cabin in the Woods because I quite like that kind of meta, outside of itself horror film because that's ironic enough that I can watch it without shitting myself because I don't deal well with fear. I have enough fear as it is. How about you guys?
Ooh. So for me, if I'm going for funny horror, it's Shaun of the Dead because it's
That's
a classic
good.
love letter to horror, like the zombie kind of trope. But if I'm being really
I also
serious,
love Dale and
it's-
Tucker versus Evil. I think that's one
Nice.
Joseph showed me. That's quite fun.
So the serious one for me is the original Dawn of the Dead
Yeah.
because it's the horror is actually not the zombies, it's the people as they're having their mental break in isolation, stuck in rooms, and I find that very, very, very distressing to watch.
Sindri has more questions. If your favourite Primarch dressed up for Halloween is another Primarch, who would they be? I've got a good answer for this.
Oh, my favourite Halloween film, by the way, was anything with Lovecraftian. So
Okay.
I am really big into that kind of thing. So Annihilation. There's one I can't remember.
Annihilation's very good. Annihilation was really
I
good.
haven't seen that.
Oh,
Actually.
It's
there's one where-
so good, so
That's got
vivid.
Natalie Portman in it, right?
Yeah.
What's the film? It's in a spaceship and it's a famous film.
Event Horizon.
Event Horizon. Oh, what a
It's
film.
basically a Warhammer film, man.
I've not seen Event Horizon.
They go in the warp.
Yeah, man. Oh, Tom.
Sam
Go
Neill's
watch
in it,
Event
Tom.
Horizon tonight.
I
You'll
don't
have
know if I
nightmares.
can after this because I need to go to bed, but I might watch it tomorrow.
So good, man. It's so good.
If your favourite Primarch dressed up for Halloween as another Primarch, who would they be?
See, I wanted to say the Lion would dress up as the wolf, as Rust to take the mick, but I don't think he would. He's a bit too straight laced, especially as a youngster. He'd be just a bit like, no, this isn't what I'd be doing. I think it'd be something like Kurz doing something dumb.
Well,
Just
you
to
know
piss them
how how Kurz would dress up as another Primarch.
in their skin.
He'd fucking wear them.
He'd be, no, do you know what it'd be? It'd be Conrad Kurz, and he'd be there with Dawn's head before they retconned it, going, hello.
Yeah. That would be pretty horrific. I think that's what I'd go for. Kurz wearing a skin suit of one of the others.
Agreed.
What's Mortarian's favourite candy?
Oh, what are those sour ones? Because sour feels like a Nurgle thing, right?
Yeah, so he's quite a sourpuss as well.
Yeah, true.
If you had an unlimited budget and the costume was movie quality, which 40k character would each of you dress up as for Halloween?
Oh, I tell you who. Oh, what's his name? The Drakara geezer.
Vect.
Nah, the guy I hate.
Drazar.
Drazar.
Yeah, you dress up as Drazar. You could do a good
Yeah.
Drazar costume. That'd be good
That'd
fun.
be a cool Drazar.
I'd probably go as a homunculus, have extra arms. That'd be fun. Yeah, I like that.
Or maybe the guy from GSE who everyone calls him the DJ.
Oh, the Clamovitz
Actually have
guy.
a DJ stand.
Yeah, and you have
I'd be
full
that guy.
deck.
That'd be cool.
That'd be sick. How about you, John?
I think for me it would be as boring as the Lion, because like if the budget's anything, I'd have a giant flipping Primarch suit of armor, and I'd have a cape. Who wouldn't
that's
want
cool.
that? And I'd have a
That's
little
pretty
dude
fun.
follow me around holding stuff. It'd be cool.
Oh, that'd be
That'd
pretty
be
cute.
I
Right.
can be a little dude. Look, there you go.
Oh, jeez. They said unlimited budget, not plus budget, man.
Oh, right, okay.
You'd actually be short, not just someone like shuffling on their knees.
Fair.
Right. We've got some questions in the chat. Presumably you've seen the GW tourney FAQ. What are your thoughts? That's kind of cleaning things up about as you would expect, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't see massive surprises in there. I think the modifiers thing, that debate's being settled will be a good thing. I think it probably brings down a few armies not being able to ignore all the mods. But it's probably for the best, just because that can be a wildly powerful thing, and it was concentrated in a few really odd places. So I think that's for the best.
And it does create quite a feel bads if you've invested in a thing and then someone just goes, I can just undo your thing. There
That's
should be
literally how the
some
game
balance
works,
of it, right?
but
No,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like to the extent where just a quarter of your army is pointless. It just becomes
Yeah.
It's like everything, right? Like there should be a line.
Yeah. I think counters existing to, I mean, in this instance, particularly just durability, which is the least interesting way to have an advantage in 40k. I think being able to get around that is useful. And if you have ways of getting around it that aren't just pure damage, that's probably quite good as well. But anyway, it makes complete sense because it's a wildly difficult thing to balance, being able to ignore that. And as you say, you need to be able to point things going into each other. I haven't really read and digested the rest of it. Fun question.
I was just going to say, Tom, it's a positive, isn't it? Because it's as you say, it's
clarity. Yeah, we want clarity. If you were to dress up as a 40k character Halloween, who would you pick? Monsters like what? Oh, you could dress up as a monster. Ooh, what monster would that be?
The Haruspecs.
Tyranid monster would be quite fun to dress up as.
Yeah.
Well, the only monster worth doing is Ghazghkull because he's not infantry, so he's a monster, man. And who wouldn't want to be Ghazghkull Magaric Thraka? That's the one.
That'd be pretty sick.
And Shirini asks, what's the most toxic candy? I don't know, but it's probably Mortarian's favourite one. So we've got the answer to our original question.
Nuclear warheads, I think they were called. They were like a gobstopper that literally, as you were
eating them,
just were like, American candy for you. It's awful.
Amazing. Right. I think that's it. Oh, we've got one more in Discord from Hannibal, which was it's aimed at me. How was your Battle of Britain experience, and what one thing did you learn? I mean, I learned a ton of things, Hannibal. I think an experience like that is you really get hammered with lessons for a whole weekend. It was amazing. It was very tough, like toughest weekend of games I've had in a long time, and that's awesome. I learned, as far as the team setup goes, I think the things I learned were you have to learn how to play games sometimes without the ambition of ever winning them. That's a weird thing for me, right? There are games where every asset you have, every resource you use has to be committed to just keeping it close and getting a bunch of points, but not enough, and not putting them away enough to win, because that's what in a particular matchup you have said you're going to do and what you need to do. That's a weird feeling to me, and I had a couple of games early on in the weekend where I was trying to win games that were hard and then made it worse, whereas actually what I should have been doing was just doubling down and keeping it closer. And so that was an interesting mentality for me, and it was amazing seeing how players kind of keep track of and predict and promise things to the team across events. That was really, really interesting. And I learned a lot more about some of the missions we played haven't been in like UKTC or haven't been very popular. Stuff like Supply Drop and the Ritual stuff I've not played a ton of, and it was good to get reps into very good players and see how they approach them as well. So yeah, I learned loads, as you always do when it's rough. Like you learn a lot more, a lot quicker. But yeah, amazing experience. Okay, brilliant. That's us done. Thank you for tuning in. It's been wonderful. We really appreciate you all watching. I hope you've had a lovely Halloween, and we will see you all again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.